The rain hadn't stopped for hours. Sheets of water pounded the windshield as a black SUV rolled down an empty highway somewhere in rural America. There were no houses, no streetlights, just miles of darkness stretching in every direction. Inside the vehicle, 15-year-old Emily rested her head against the passenger window, quietly watching raindrops race across the glass while her father kept both hands firmly on the steering wheel. They had spent the entire day at St. Mary's Hospital visiting Emily's mother, who was recovering from emergency surgery. The visit had been emotionally exhausting, and neither of them felt much like talking. The windshield wipers swept back and forth in a steady rhythm as soft music played through the speakers. Wrapped in the warmth of the SUV, Emily slowly began to drift asleep. Suddenly, a deafening bang shattered the silence. The SUV jerked violently to the right. Her father gripped the steering wheel with all his strength, desperately trying to regain control, but the rain-soaked pavement offered almost no traction. The vehicle spun across the road before crashing into a low stone wall with a thunderous impact. For several terrifying seconds, everything was silent except for the rain. "Emily," her father shouted, turning toward her in panic. She took a shaky breath and nodded. "I'm okay." Relieved, he quickly climbed out into the storm to inspect the damage. Emily watched him through the fogged-up window as he walked around the SUV with a flashlight. After a few minutes, he returned, completely soaked and wearing a worried expression. "We hit something sharp," he said. "Both front tires are completely destroyed." Emily glanced down the deserted highway. There wasn't another vehicle anywhere in sight. "Can't you replace them?" she asked hopefully. He slowly shook his head. "I only have one spare tire. We'll need a tow truck." Looking down the empty road, he continued, "The nearest town isn't far. I'll walk there and call for help." Emily immediately felt her stomach tighten. "Please don't leave me here alone." Her father leaned through the open door and gave her a reassuring smile. "I know you're scared, but you'll be all right. Lock every door. Don't roll down the windows, and don't open the SUV for anyone except me. I promise I'll be back as quickly as I can." She nodded reluctantly. After gently squeezing her shoulder, he stepped back into the pouring rain. Emily watched through the rear window as his flashlight grew smaller and smaller until it disappeared completely into the darkness. The rain continued to hammer against the roof while strong winds rocked the SUV from side to side. Emily checked her phone, hoping to call her father, but there was no signal. She sighed and tried to stay calm. 5 minutes passed. Then 15. Then 30. Before she realized it, more than an hour had gone by. Her father should have returned long ago. She tried calling again. Still nothing. The silence outside felt strange, almost unnatural. Then she noticed movement in the rearview mirror. Someone was slowly walking toward the SUV through the rain. Relief rushed over her. "Dad," she whispered. She leaned closer to the window, but as lightning flashed across the sky, her hope disappeared instantly. It wasn't her father. The stranger was tall and broad-shouldered, wearing filthy mechanic's overalls and heavy work boots. A thick beard covered most of his face, and his long, wet hair clung to his shoulders. In one hand, he carried something large that swung slowly with every step. Emily couldn't tell what it was. Then another flash of lightning reflected off something in his other hand. It was a large butcher's knife. Fear exploded through her body. Without wasting another second, Emily locked every door again, climbed into the back seat, and curled herself into the corner. The stranger suddenly stopped walking. He simply stood there, staring directly at the SUV. Several long seconds passed before he began moving again. This time, he walked much slower. Every step brought him closer. Emily could barely breathe as the object hanging from his left hand slowly became clearer through the rain. Another flash of lightning lit up the highway. Emily froze. The object wasn't a bag. It wasn't an animal. It was her father's severed head. His lifeless eyes stared blankly into the darkness. His mouth hung open as rainwater streamed down his face. Emily let out a piercing scream. She couldn't stop. Her entire body shook uncontrollably as panic overwhelmed every thought in her mind. The stranger finally reached the driver's side window and pressed his scarred face against the glass. His bloodshot eyes locked onto Emily's. For several endless seconds, he simply stood there in the pouring rain, smiling without saying a single word. Then, very slowly, he reached into his pocket. Emily squeezed her eyes shut, expecting him to smash the window. Instead, when she forced herself to look again, the stranger slowly raised his hand. Dangling from one finger were her father's car keys. A tiny metallic click echoed through the silent SUV. The doors unlocked.